What if the most world-changing agreement was never spoken aloud? Imagine the tension: two bitterly opposed nations, exhausted by years of conflict, sit across from each other. Leaders, wary and watchful, know that even a single word could reignite hostilities. Yet, amidst this silence, something extraordinary happened. A treaty was born, negotiated almost entirely without spoken words. This isn't just legend. It's the little-known story of how silence shaped the fate of nations. Picture the scene: an ancient war, perhaps in medieval Europe, where the clashing of armies had reached a stalemate. Both sides longed for peace, but mistrust ran deep. Traditional negotiations had failed. Words, it seemed, had become weapons themselves. Then, a radical idea emerged. What if they tried something different? What if they negotiated in silence? The setting was a neutral ground, a lonely hall with high walls and no echoes. Delegates arrived, each accompanied by scribes and guards, but conversation was forbidden. Instead, they relied on gestures, written notes, and subtle body language. Every movement was calculated, every glance loaded with meaning. Silence heightened the stakes. There was no room for misunderstanding, no loopholes to exploit. The process was painstaking. Offers and counteroffers were exchanged on parchment, handed across the table without a word. A raised eyebrow meant skepticism, a nod signaled agreement. Sometimes, hours passed with nothing but the sound of ink scratching paper. Yet, slowly, trust began to build. The lack of spoken language forced both sides to think carefully, to weigh every concession and demand. One pivotal moment came when a general from one side placed his weapon on the table and simply slid it away, a silent promise of peace. The other delegates responded with a similar gesture. No words, just action. These moves, small, deliberate, almost ritualistic, became the grammar of their negotiations. When the final terms were agreed, they did not celebrate with speeches or toasts. Instead, the treaty was signed in silence, the ink drying as the two groups looked each other in the eye. The quiet was profound, almost sacred. In that stillness, centuries of animosity seemed to fade. The world outside didn't know at first, but the effects were undeniable. Armies stood down, borders were redrawn, and the seeds of new alliances were quietly sown. So why did silence succeed where words had failed? Because in moments of deep distress, talking can fuel suspicion, but silence leaves space for trust to grow. By stripping away rhetoric and posturing, the negotiators found common ground. Their silent treaty became a turning point, inspiring other leaders to rethink how peace could be achieved. Today, few remember this story. Yet its lessons echo. Sometimes, the loudest change is made in quiet. The next time history's page turns, listen for the silence, because it might be where the real story lies. Follow Lorelight for more stories worth knowing.